Sir Sheehy, thank you. Sir Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to say I must express disappointment in the decision to convene a legislative hearing that amplifies the Washington Post's misleading and flawed attack against the VA disability benefit system, especially by inviting a witness who supports those sentiments. And adding insult to injury, this effort to falsely depict our nation's disabled veterans as a group of dishonest fraudsters and cheaters originates from a paper that is owned by a multi-billionaire whose net worth exceeds by tens of billions of dollars the total amount that the United States government spends on disability compensation to over 6 million disabled veterans in any given year. Look, nobody's denying the unfortunate reality that a small number of veterans exist who will dishonor their own service and that of their fellow veterans by defrauding the VA. These individuals can and should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. If we want to enhance deterrence, we should strengthen enforcement resources to increase the rates of criminal investigations, prosecutions, and convictions of these fraudsters. The mistake we must avoid is allowing a minority of criminals to dictate the redesign of the VA disability benefit system into a bureaucratic black box that is more frustrating and less fair and will leave more veterans waiting and dying, waiting to get their benefits that they've earned. Since we met many years ago at Walter Reed, I've been disappointed, Colonel Gade, in watching your journey. You and I were there together. We suffered together. We recovered together. But I have to say, I've been disappointed in watching your journey to becoming one of the leading critics of the entire concept of disability compensation for disabled veterans. And I do feel that you believe that you're simply offering our fellow disabled veterans some tough love that everyone else is too afraid to give to inspire them to achieve the success that you've been so very fortunate to earn. However, your rhetoric, particularly in downplaying the severity of the reality of the invisible wounds of war, runs the real risk of doing more harm than good. Portraying disabled veterans as a group of takers who will happily never work again for $3,100 per month is incredibly condescending and disrespectful to these heroic Americans. Disabled veterans, like any American, want to work for more than just money. They're driven by a sense of mission, purpose, and meaning. And your characterization of disabled veterans who accept disability compensation as being moochers who are trapped by the system advances a very damaging stereotype that shames many veterans into foregoing VA benefits at a cost to themselves and their loved ones. So there's an irony that the VA is being accused of being too generous, too trusting, and too focused on enhancing efficiency for disabled veterans by a paper whose owner is famous for accumulating a vast fortune by adopting a core management principle, obsessive customer focus. So my question for the VSO leaders on the panel is simple. Do our disabled veterans deserve worse treatment from the United States government?
No, they don't.
No, they do not.
Should Congress require VA to presume that every disabled veteran applying for benefits is guilty of fraud?
They shouldn't, because they're not.
Should VA force every disabled veteran to fight through copious amounts of paperwork and push through layer upon layer of code, harsh bureaucracy to prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, to obtain what are often quite modest disability compensation benefits?
Senator, no.
We must never forget that Congress and VA have worked hard for many decades to end an unacceptable status quo where the VA benefit system was hostile, combative, and stunningly inefficient. My larger fear is that our committee indulging in efforts to demonize the VA disability benefit system will lead us to creating a harmful guardrails that do reduce improper payments, but at the cost of scores of eligible disabled veterans giving up and abandoning efforts to secure the benefits they earned when they served our country in uniform. Would any of the witnesses testifying on behalf of VSOs like to elaborate on that threat and why criticism of VA trying to instill a culture that seeks the let's get to yes is preferable to a culture that seeks to get to no?
Senator, I will happily take that question if I may. As I said in my remarks and in our submission for the record, we have deliberately worked to make it easier for veterans to access the benefits that they've earned. Those of us who have worn the uniform have seen it where peers of ours struggle for the care for the diseases or the health conditions that they're suffering with. In addition to Kachikarabad, our organization's advocating for air crews. Congress just passed a study to make sure that air crews, and it was signed into law, that we study their toxic exposures. There's a group of veterans, submariners, and the veterans of foreign wars who are speaking very vocally about the unique challenges of submarine service and the exposures that they have. Now, make no mistake, we all knew that military service was dangerous, but as we've focused on when we say honor the contract, it was in our enlistment contracts. It's in there, required to order to serve in combat or other hazardous situations, and then entitled to receive pay allowances and other benefits as provided by law and regulation. So to have a discussion where it's portraying veterans accessing that system as if we're somehow exploiting loopholes and it's an honor system, look, it's trying to pit veterans against Americans, other Americans. And it's something that we shouldn't tolerate, especially when such a small percentage of the population volunteered for that dangerous job that has occupational hazards that others can just walk away from.
The data is clear, and it's not just data coming from the VA, but from other or not-for-profits, that the vast majority of veterans' claims for benefits are truthful and accurate, not that they're fraudulent and false. And I think we need to keep that in mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Duckworth, thank you.